I'm Dr. Lynn Sandra Kahn, and I have a warning about episodes 17 through 22. You may be triggered by our conversations regarding the failures of family law, family court, foster care, medical kidnapping, and parental alienation. Please, if you have been caught up in the child welfare system, find your support group. You are not alone. The system is broken and abusive. Two places to start are the website rachelbruno.com, as we discuss in episode 17, and on Facebook, the page Family Forward Project with Connie Reguli, as we discuss in episode 19. Please find your support group. You are not alone. Viewer discretion advised. Welcome to my podcast and YouTube channel, The Government Mechanic. I am your host, Dr. Lynn Sandra Kahn, and I am the Government Mechanic. This is the third of 6 episodes about the failures of our child welfare system, including the failures of foster care, family court, and our topic for today, medical kidnapping. My guest is Terri LaPoint, investigative journalist, author, speaker, and an extraordinary woman. Hey, Terri, are you in Alabama?
I am. It's warm here. It's really warm today.
Well, we're waiting for many inches of snow here.
Oh, wow.
So, Terri, let's just get right into it.
Okay.
You first started your investigations about medical kidnapping, and as you were looking into the child welfare system, and it sounds horrible. What is medical kidnapping?
Well, it is when Child Protective Services takes a child from a family for medical kinds of reasons, a medical disagreement, a misdiagnosis, or one doctor says one thing and another doctor says another thing, or when they're using the children for medical experimentation and they take them.
And how did they end up getting medical treatment? So they're seized by Child Protective Services,
Mm-hmm.
put into foster care,
Mm-hmm.
and then how does it happen that they have medical treatment that the parents have not agreed to?
Well, there is a little known loophole in our laws that allows that children who are wards of the state and who are foster children can be legally used for medical research or drug testing without their parents' knowledge or consent. We had no idea that this was happening, but it's happening all over America.
I had no idea any of this was going on until 2016 when I was running for office, and I ended up in a meeting in Iowa where parent and grandparent over and over and over again talked about some of these situations, definitely having their kids seized by Child Protective Services,
Right.
and some instances of medical treatment that they did not approve. What motivated you to turn your attention to this topic? It's such a difficult one.
It really is. Well, I was on my way to becoming a midwife. I was a labor doula, homeschool mom, childbirth educator, and I just was doing some writing on the side, and I'd seen a story out of Boston that horrified me of a young girl, Justina Pelletier, that was being they actually used the term medical kidnap about that, where one doctor said she had something and another doctor said it was something else, and after it would all kind of washed out, they found out she was being used in a medical as far as medical research that that one of the doctors was doing, and it was horrific. And I thought, this has got to be an anomaly. This can't be the way the system works,
Yeah.
because Child Protective Services is about protecting children from horrible, abusive parents. That's what it's for. That's what it's about. So this has got to be an anomaly. And another homeschool mom brought another story to my attention out of Arizona. And then as I was doing more writing, I was approached by an editor that said, "Hey, we are starting a division called medicalkidnap.com. Would you be
Wow.
interested in investigating these stories and seeing what's happening?" And I said, yes, yes, because I want to know what's happening. Is this a threat to normal families in America like mine? Is this, how much of a threat is this? How big is this? And honestly, none of us had the slightest idea what we were getting into. We had
Yeah.
no idea what we would
Yeah.
uncover.
When I first started hearing about it, I had no idea either. Why do you think it's not, people don't understand what's happening?
Well, parents are a lot of times they are put under gag orders. They're ashamed. Parents they tend to be embarrassed. The mentality is that if Child Protective Services takes your child, then you must be a horrible parent. You must be doing something wrong. And that is still the prevailing mentality. I think a lot more people are waking up the more of these stories that we hear. And I think the more we realize that this could happen, or it's happening, to the next door neighbor, or the young family at our church, or the grandparents, our cousin, or somebody, when we see it happen to somebody close to us, then people realize, oh, what this crazy lady over here was talking about.
Yeah. Not
Oh,
so
you're
crazy.
right. And I've literally had people come to me and apologize and say, I thought you were crazy. And I was like, the stories are crazy. The stories are insane. They should never be happening, but they are. It's real. And, I've researched stories from all over the country. People would come to us. I never went looking for stories. Never have gone looking for stories. They would always come to me from north, south, east, west, Central America. I mean, central part of America, the heartland, from all over America.
Yep.
And they would say the same things. Their stories would become so predictable. They would start telling me a little bit about it. And I was like, I'm just listening to them talk, taking notes, but the stories would be the same. The names and the places would change, but the stories were so predictable. They were being told the same things, and they hadn't talked to each other. And when I was doing this was 2014 through the end of 2018.
Mhm.
That's when I did the bulk of these stories. And people really weren't in the beginning of that talking on social media about it. There weren't a lot of groups on social media. Now there are. There's a lot. So but these people had not communicated. They didn't know that other people were going through this. And still there's a lot of people that had no idea. They feel so very alone. And
Yes. Yes. Yes.
so
I
um,
taped a warning and put it at the beginning of these episodes about all these issues that, you're not alone. The system is broken and a
yeah,
couple of resources for them to go to.
good,
So,
good.
do you know the numbers? So there's like somewhere between 380,000, some years 600,000 kids in
Mhm.
foster care.
Right, right. And they stay pretty, it's in that range, closer, I guess an average of about half a million kids every year that are in the system, which that's impacting so many families. That's not mentioning all the parents and the grandparents and the cousins and the siblings and all of that. There's so many families being impacted by this. Um,
So say some more about how it works. I mean, who's making these decisions? So a child is taken from the parents or parent, put in foster care through Child Protective Services or whatever it's called in that state. And if there's a medical issue, then there are people that are making medical decisions, and
mhm.
it's not the parents. How does that work?
Okay, so what people have got to realize, and every parent needs to know this, that in all of our children's hospitals, all of them, and some other hospitals besides them, they're expanding, there are these doctors that are known as child abuse pediatricians. Now, child abuse pediatricians, their specialty is child abuse, and they're
Mhm.
supposed to determine whether something is abuse or not. And that sounds great because that's the question. That's the $1 million question. Well, no pun intended. That's, I guess, a Freudian slip. $1 million question. It is a multi-million-dollar question. These doctors are not funded like regular doctors. So a parent goes in, they're talking to a doctor, they're trying to find out what's going on with their child. They don't know, their child maybe stopped breathing, or they're having some kind of an episode or something, and they go to the hospital and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And this doctor comes in there, another one of the doctors, and what they don't realize is this doctor is a child abuse pediatrician who is being funded through Health and Human Services, and they're not looking for what's wrong, they're looking to build a case. They're literally acting as part of the prosecution, building a case. So these parents are being interrogated. They don't realize it. They may say something that gets twisted, like say a shaken baby case, like if they're asking about trying to find out if we have a shaken baby syndrome, and they say, well, did you shake your baby? And they're like, well, yeah, the baby wasn't breathing, so I did this. But then by the time they get to court, the child abuse pediatrician will tell them they were shaking their baby. And
Mm.
so they don't realize they have the right to remain silent. They don't have it, they're not given Miranda rights or anything like that. But these doctors are not experts in anything. I literally wrote an article called Child Abuse Pediatricians Are Not Experts in Anything. And they're really not. And what I found this out because I would story after story, a child would have a medical condition that some the parents were able to find out, and track down what was really going on. A lot of times it was a long process, but they would have medical experts who were real experts in the condition that the child had. And then, and sometimes six or eight, I've had as many as a dozen medical experts that are real experts that say, this is not abuse. This child was not abused. This is a medical condition that looks like child abuse, but it's
Mm.
not abuse. And but the courts and the social workers would ignore all of that, and they would take the word of the child abuse pediatrician. And it happens all over America. People have gone to prison. People have lost their
Mm.
kids, had them permanently removed and placed in care with strangers for things they didn't do.
And what makes it worse, I think, is that those placements with strangers, those foster parents or caregivers are not vetted. There are no standards. They could be placed with someone who has a history of child sexual abuse, and some have in some states. There are
Yes.
no standards. There's no vetting of who takes care of these kids once they're taken away from the parents.
Well, they may have a semblance of vetting. They may say they have some vetting, but it's not good enough, obviously. Just a child that I covered her story in Arizona. It just came out on X. Somebody posted about that, and I thought, oh, this sounds like David Frodsham. Well, I read that. I was like, yes, this is David Frodsham. This is a man, a military guy who was, I guess, had some issues with the military, but he was running a pedophile pornography ring out of his own home, a child pornography ring out of his home, and he was using foster children. He was using children that some of them were foster kids and some of them were kids that they had adopted from foster care. And they were pimping them out and using these kids in a pedophile ring. And the man is now in prison serving a 17-year sentence, rightly so. He's been sued by some of the kids that grew up, but Child Protective Services kept on placing children with him, even when parents and different people involved with the case were saying something's not right. These kids, they are showing clear signs of being molested. They weren't molested at home by their real parents, but they were being molested in foster care. And the data actually shows, I mean, there's so many studies that say that children are at least 6 times more likely to be raped, molested, abused, or killed in foster care than if you left them in their own home, even if that home was a troubled home. So clearly this is not serving our children. We're not actually protecting them. We're actually placing them in more harm's way.
Yes. Are there legislative efforts to change this? I know you've been to Washington. Are you working on different kinds of legislation?
Yes. So I think you're going to have Connie Reguly, attorney, founder of Family Forward Project, on your show soon, and I know she'll talk about the bill that we've been working on for a while in Washington D.C. and seeing that in my own state. There is a bill in Alabama that will be out soon. We don't have a bill number, and it's kind of a working title. The working title right now is Parental Due Process and Notification Act. And what this bill would do is require DHR, which is our Child Protective Services, to notify parents that they have rights that kind of like Miranda rights for criminal, but people don't realize that criminal court and family court are two entirely different things. And the things that we all count on as constitutional protections in criminal court are largely
Missing.
ignored. Yeah, they're missing in family courts.
Yeah.
And so this would require parents to be able to be notified of their rights. And it's got some things in there that would hold the department accountable to for more training and getting data back to the legislators so they can see and understand what's really going on. There that bill is going to be introduced by Representative Kenneth Pascal in Alabama. Then there is a bill in Texas called
Yeah.
HB 1652, and it's about childhood cancer. And I believe you had Bailey on your show. So this is one that would have impacted a case like hers. Representative Nate Schatzline has got this bill that says that parents have the right to refuse treatment or to seek alternative treatment or whatever for when childhood cancer is diagnosed, and
Yep.
and that parents would have to be notified of any treatments that would render the child to be infertile. So that's a good bill that's been introduced. There's one more I want to tell you about that passed in Texas in 2021, and it's having to do with child abuse pediatricians. It kind of reins in their power, and it says that the courts have to take a second opinion, a medical opinion, and they have to listen to it, like we were talking about before. They would actually have to pay attention to that and heed that second opinion. So there are things that are being done. That
It's starting. It's starting.
it's a
Yes.
start. Yeah.
So finally, what advice do you have for a parent or parents that are caught up in this whole child welfare, family court, foster care, medical decisions made without parental consent or the child's consent? What advice do you have?
Well, one is never give up. Never ever give up. Keep fighting. Don't Parents that give up, you won't get your kids back. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be the fight of your life. But connect with others who are going through this through groups like Family Forward Project on Facebook and other families. You're not alone. And I want to say that shows like yours are invaluable in exposing what's going on so more people can understand and see that this is happening. And as our voices become stronger, we can and we will make a difference.
Thank you, Terri. I am so impressed with your courage talking about these issues, how smart you are, how persistent you are, what a great communicator you are. Thank you so much for being on this show.
Thank you so much.